Evening, everybody. Welcome to The View, and joined by Andrea Russo to have our first kind of chat, loose, relaxed conversation about the playoff final. 5 days to go until Leeds play Southampton in the showcase event of the championship for this season, the final game of the season. 10 months since we were relegated from the Premier Division, and a chance to hopefully bounce back. Andrea, how have you been? How are you feeling about things?
Well, Ger, first of all, thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to chat with you. About how I'm feeling, yeah, I'm feeling really stressful, and I won't lie, honestly. The final is really getting into my mind, because I don't have a good relationship approaching finals, especially also personal. In my previous career, with clubs, we lost a key final, so I don't have a good relationship with them. A good relationship with Wembley on the other hand as an Italian, but yeah, of course, I think on paper the two teams are pretty even, so it's really difficult to read so far. But I think we'll try to do that and see the pound for pound and kind of stuff. But yeah, stressed. Stress is the right word so far to describe me during this week.
I wasn't going to start doing these till possibly tomorrow evening, maybe Friday even. I've got the stream with stats. Thought I'd do some stuff Friday, Saturday, but as the week has gone on, like yourself, I'm getting itchy, and I'm like, if I don't talk about this, it's just going to build up and build up and build up. I do want to do a quick shout out for anybody in Ireland. I don't do an awful lot of these. If you're not going to Wembley, like myself, the Camden Bar in Dublin are having a watch party. It's a huge venue in Dublin. Anyone who's been there will know what it's like. Close with 2,000 people capacity. They're looking to try and get 500 people in the door on Sunday if they can. If you are around there, all the booths and seated areas are taken. They're all booked up, but they are accepting walk-ins right up until kickoff. So there will be plenty of room for everybody. So if you're not going there and you're in Ireland and you're in Dublin and you want to have a bit of an atmosphere around the game, head to the Camden Bar. That is my plan for right now, but wanted to throw it out there for everybody as well. If you're thinking about it, you can look it up online. There's the Camden Whites as well, not to be confused with Camden in London. This is Camden in Dublin, but the Camden Whites in Dublin, so you can check that out as well if you want to, because that will be a nuts atmosphere. If it goes our way. Did you think about going to the final? Did you try and get a ticket, Andrea?
Yeah, I tried, but the unfortunate thing is that I had an operation, a minor one, in October, but the recovery has been really slow with a lot of setbacks. So, like till 2 weeks ago, I still had little problems, but I think I could travel, but I wasn't, in my mind, I wasn't, prepared to travel to go long distances. But yeah, it was clear that they say, yeah, you can start to do training, you can start to do the gym work. So I tried to, but of course, I have not been to a game, unfortunately, because of this, because I haven't traveled this season. So I wasn't meeting the quota, So I was hoping that, the sale that they did today, with the 5 games, it was open for all. Then I would have been there, absolutely. 100%, because being to Wembley, I've already been to Wembley, but being to Wembley to watch Leeds, I would have gone with my dad. He doesn't speak English basically, but he understands what Leeds. We watch Leeds sometimes together, but it would have been a dream. I'm really it's I'm disappointed because it would have been a dream, but I'm really really happy for people that are going, like Loki, for example, that he found a ticket today. He was. It is. Yeah, I'm very, very happy for you, mate, because I know that he was very eager to go. Yeah.
I'm over the moon for Lucky to get his ticket.
Absolutely.
You're going to have a cracking time, mate. I'm really excited for you. It's going to be great.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Luke had all know better as well. Got tickets. Luke did contact me today to see if I wanted to get a ticket and if I could have a look at it. But the price of flights have gone through the roof now as well. And everything is mad. Trying to get time off work as well. But I'm delighted that the guys are going. They're going to have a fantastic time. I am jealous. I would love to be there. I would absolutely love to be there. But I will have fun in Dublin. We'll find another way of enjoying the atmosphere. And fingers crossed, it is an atmosphere that we will enjoy. But it's not been great this season in terms of Leeds versus Southampton, Andrea. But before we even get to that, I wanted to talk about the whole season, just kind of in a bubble. What were your thoughts on the entire campaign? Looking back at the start of the season, seeing where we've come through to where we are, the little blip at the end as well, falling slightly short, and then the playoffs as well, and breaking the playoff hoodoo of winning a game at Elland Road in the playoffs, which was huge as well. But what are your thoughts on the season as a whole, Andrea?
Well, I think it was a good season overall. Remembering especially how it started, because we started with a change of ownership, and in the midst of the campaign at the start of the season, we had players with the long clauses, players who weren't sure. We weren't sure either if they were staying or leaving till the end of the transfer window, like Sinistero, Agnonto, Adams. So it was really difficult for the manager and the ownership, especially to understand which players were in and which players weren't. Never been to London. Wow.
Never been to London. That's going to be an experience for you.
And lucky hasn't. Enjoy London, mate. It's best city in the world for me. It's not like the best of England, but it's the best in the world for me. It's totally different countries. Like it's like a microcosm. Like a country inside another country. London. But yeah, overall about the season. Overall about the season, it's like I think we started with a little bit of bumpy road, because I remember the game at Birmingham. If you look at that 11 when we lost with that injury time penalty, it's a totally different 11 compared to the starting 11 that we have now. So it took a little time. I think Falke figured out, especially in autumn, how to play with this side. Then we had a little bit, we were a little bit easy to play against in a certain way towards the end of November and December, because the other teams figured out how to attack us with the high pressing, with Preston, West Brom. Then I think Falke was really smart when he made the adjustment with Grujev into the side, going back, the tactical adjustment with the three at the back, basically in possession, with Jorginho more involved in the middle. And especially, I think Kamara played fantastically in that spell when we had that very good run. I think after the international break, the injuries and the fatigue really played a part, especially also in the mentality, because we had the Welsh players returning to the side completely knackered mentally and physically, because I think also Rodon had some difficult performances, not at his standard. James, he went back into the side, scored, but of course he had ups and downs, a little bit of injury setbacks. But yeah, I was a little bit worried towards the end, because I think Falke was really stubborn in a certain way in certain tactics, and I wanted him to do what he did towards the start of the new year, make a little tactical adjustment in order to to work better with this side, because there were players that were really easy to play against, were not playing with verticality, struggling to give us progression. And I think after the start of the playoffs, I think we were chameleontic, if that's the right word. Because again, at Norwich, I think we were really clinical in terms of how we wanted to play the game. We wanted not to concede to them. We wanted to attack fluidly, in terms of ball possession. On the other hand, in the second leg, I think we really wanted to attack them aggressively. And we've seen a similar side to the one that we see at the start of the year. So I think right now I'm a little bit more optimistic. Of course, I think the start of the season, and after the international break, the injuries and the fatigue and the uncertainty in the side, I think they really played a part. And I think the third finish is fair, looking at the season overall. In the end, if we look at it,
yeah, it's been a long one. It's felt like a long season. I think at points of it, I felt like the season has just flown by us, and at other times this season, I look back at the start of the season, think how long ago does that seem like it was? You mentioned the Birmingham City game, which up until that, Birmingham City, the West Brom game afterwards, Leeds hadn't won a game. But if you look at the team then, and even the squad, Leeds started off with a starting 11 against Birmingham of Meslier in goal, Luke Ayling right back, centre-back pairing of Cresswell and Stroke, left-back Sam Byram, midfield two of Ampadu and Gray, the three behind the striker, Shackleton, Paveda and James, and Joe Gelhardt up top. The subs bench, Joe Rodon, Jorginho Rutter, Chris Klassen, Darko JB, Lewis Bate, Carl Darlow, Leo Hjelde, and Cody Drama. Of that group, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are gone from the team,
and some are not involved in matchday squads anymore. Basically, that's
a hell of a turnaround in a season. Like I know Daniel Farkas said, wait till the end of August and judge us then. But to see where Leeds were, and I know a lot of people got really upset that we fell short at the end. But if you look at the start of the season, it was such. I mean, outside the initial draw, the first game of the season against Cardiff, which I thought the first day of the season you get weird results, but 2-0 with Cardiff, just about beat Shrewsbury 2-1, then got beaten by Birmingham, then drew with West Brom at home, and then it kicked in a little bit. Then we beat Ipswich. We obviously got beaten by Salford then, but we started to move then. But by that stage, there's a potential of 9 points there that you've picked up one. which 2 points, sorry, which if you look back then on the entire season, people will say it's the games at the end of the season that stopped us from getting promoted. But if we'd got our house in order earlier, if there wasn't a takeover, if there wasn't a new manager coming in, if we didn't have half the squad threatening to sue the club unless they could leave, if all of that wasn't going on, you pick up 2 wins in that first couple of weeks, you're promoted, but it's not how football works. It's not how this league works. It's been a hell of a league to get out. The break from the championship has made me realize how tough this league actually is. Everyone says it. Championship's an unforgiving league. It's a tough league. But when you actually been out of it for a couple of years, come back into it, because I think I got numb to the championship after 16 years floating around it. Then you drop back in, you realize it's a nuts league. It's a crazy league. Like, the most random results can happen any given Sunday, and they usually do. And unfortunately for Leeds, they've been on the receiving end of a couple of them as well. So it's just a tough league to get out of. And it's one of those ones where it's a slog for the 40 odd games of the season that it is. And you just want to get past it, get out of it and move on. But we're there. We're at the end of it. And we're in with a shout. And I think if you go back to the start of the season again, Andrea, as you were saying, like, if this had been offered to us at the start of the season, if after the Birmingham City game or even after the Salford Cup game, if someone had said to you, you'll be in the playoff final in Wembley against Southampton the final day of the season, would you take that? I think a lot of people would have gone, yeah, because we're a mess right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that what your head would have been like?
Yeah, I think so, because at the start of the season, I think our mindset was like, let's get through August. We weren't looking at this at the end of the season or that. We were just looking, what's the team gonna look like at the end of the month? Because I think Farke was immense, not just in man management. Of course, the results weren't, the wins weren't there yet in August, but I think it was immense because it was the face of the club basically in August. Yeah. It was the only one speaking about the situation. He was speaking about the clauses. Of course, it's not up to the manager, but I think it was his choice in the end a little bit. I think he wanted to be like the face of the club in terms, I'm taking it. I'm taking everything, the heat, the questions, the pressure, the uncertainty, because I think also the new group, the new owners, they're not used to be like in the face and on the spotlight. Even in American football, they really like to talk through actions rather than words, and I think that's what they did in the end. I think we didn't do all the business that we could back then, because I think there were just one position, especially the number 10 and another striker. I would have liked to see us sign those 2 positions even in January. I think we could have tried to sign Smalldish, honestly, for me, because Blackburn are a selling club. We've seen them selling like, for example, on loan Travis and Adam Wharton, of course, to Palace. But yeah, in August, I think the mindset for every one of us was like, let's just go through August and see what's the team gonna look like. It was like a team of, is he gonna be there tomorrow, or he's gonna be not be there tomorrow? There was like Adams. Yeah. Remember that when he went into the pitch after Cardiff, embracing Gray, and everybody said, "Oh, he's gonna be like a father, not like a father figure, like a mentor for Archie Gray. He wants to be there. He cares about the team." And then we find out he wanted to shoot the team like Sinisterra, with the legal issues. It was like the pitch, and that's the problem. When you have a united group fully able to focus on the pitch and not on things around the club, you get results. If not, if it's another situation hanging around in the background like ghosts, you're not fully focused. Unfortunately, it's not your own fault in the end. It's like the environment around you. And I think after we got through August, the things started to change, because Farke could really focus just on the pitch, and the player could look around in the dressing room and say, yeah, these are my teammates now. I know they're going to be here for the next 6 months at least. So he's not going to leave tomorrow. He's going to be there tomorrow. That's the main difference. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think he did a great job. I mean, he's coming for some criticism this year, Farke, and you alluded to it in the piece you said a few minutes ago, where you talked about some of the decision making that he's made this season. I think, and I think that's been the biggest gripe from most Leeds fans, is maybe a bit slow to use the bench at time, maybe not rotating the squad as much as he could. Maybe that had a little bit of an impact during that bad run towards the back end of the season, because we didn't rotate early enough. Players did get niggly injuries. The big piece for me is I think the March international break is a crazy international break. I thought it last year when we were in the Premier League. It just comes at a time where you've got clubs competing for titles. You've got teams fighting for relegation. You've got teams trying to get into leagues. And then you've got this random international break that might have a couple of competitive internationals in it, but they're Nations League games. Outside of that, they're usually friendlies. And then you get Ilya Groove coming back from a nothing international friendly where he picks up an injury and had been hugely important to Leeds. So that impacts it as well. Just the legginess of a very, very long season. But I think the big positive from a Farke perspective is exactly as you've said, is how he handled the pressure at the start of the season. And more than anything, how he took the pressure off everybody else and put it very much on his shoulders. He, as you said, he was the one that said, I'm the manager, not the coach. I'm managing this. When the 49ers wanted to be quiet, he took the questions for anything relating to players or transfers, anything like that. And when it wasn't going well, he took the flak as well. He put it very firmly on his shoulders and said, this is on me. That's my decision. I did this. And it was never about the team. You look at other managers this year, we've seen Maresca fall out with his team. We've seen Russell Martin really go to town publicly on his players, which doesn't always work. And at times, I think possibly affected them negatively. Daniel Farke has never done that. I think once, maybe the final day of the season, I think he talked about performance at an individual level. But outside of that, he's taken everything on his shoulders and he's taken the blame. I think that takes a huge amount of pressure away from what is a very young team. He's talked about a lack of experience in the side. Maybe he's felt he needs to step in as that experience and deflect the attention away from the players. And I think from that perspective, and again, looking at the whole season, I think he's done a really, really good job of being professional. And I said it in the summer, I thought it was the best signing Leeds made in the summer. Just a professional, good hand to steer the wheel of a ship that needed just steadying. Whether that's a long-term thing or not is a different conversation. People will bring up the record in the Premier League. I did at the start of the season. That's a conversation for when we get there. But I think from a championship perspective, he's very much managed Leeds in the best way, in the calmest way that we could have been, because it hasn't been calm at the club for a long time. Even during the Bielsa years, there were still two crazy men in the director's box shouting and screaming at people. So it's nice. From my perspective, it was nice to get that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, especially as a man, that's what we needed, going through different managers after Bielsa left. I think we sense a little bit, of course, there are two different men, two different personalities, but I think in the way he interacts with the environment around him, Farke, as in terms of personality and management, and also the way he behaves himself and talks about the club and the community, especially the timing of it. I think he has some resemblances with Bielsa. After that, I think Marsh never got the club. Gracia was here, he liked the scene in The Sims, when Abraham Simpson goes in, takes the hat off and then walks out, Allardyce, exactly. Allardyce arrived, and the first thing he said is like, I'm par with Pep Guardiola and Jurgen Klopp. There was like a complete mess behind the scenes, and I think he didn't have the player in their development. They needed a man manager and also a tactical manager like Farke. And I think that he's still missing some pieces in his squad to play the football he wants to play. So if we get to the Premier League, I'm really intrigued to see the transfer market we will make if we get there. If not, I think he's still gonna be the manager next season, and there'll be a huge, I think, rebranding of the squad, because I think we'll be forced to sell a couple of players. Of course, we have players on loan, so we'll have to do some scouting and get some new players in and like rebuild the core of the squad in that sense. But yeah, I was absolutely pro Farke when we were talking. I remember I started the season when we did the shows with you, with Joe, with Locke. We were talking about Patrick Vieira. There were rumors about all those kind of managers. And I remember when I saw Fabrizio Romano tweeting about the mutual consent termination of the contract of Farke at Gladbach. After 10 seconds, I saw that tweet. I quoted it and I said, it will be the perfect manager for us, because when he was at Norwich, he managed a squad with a good mix of veterans. And we had Ayling, Cooper, all those kind of players, Dallas at the start of the season, and Bamford, of course, and good and young players. And I think he was the perfect one in terms also how he really transfers this idea of football, how he wants to play the game to his players and to the World Club, because I think now we're really attached to the mentality. But of course, we are really open to criticism too, because I think with the subs, I agree with that. He makes the sub really late into the game. And the other thing, I think he's understood that I think he's really stubborn at times when he wants to really playing his style of football with the certain players that cannot play in his style of football. For example, now he's changed that with Kamara going a little bit more forward, but we were trying to play Farke ball with Kamara and Griff staying back and no one progression with the ball and creating verticality. So if you don't have verticality and a number 10, which was the key player for the system, then you cannot play Farke ball at his best, because if you look at Norwich, the number 10 was the key player for them, and at times when Rotter was struggling, we really, and Pirlo of course playing there, we really struggled to play at our best,
Yeah, I agree that the kind of players he's looking for, and I think again going back to that point again about what was done in August was a bigger job that was needed when the likes of Sinisterra and Adams put out your squad last minute. You're hoping to have them Vober as well, players that had said that they would be there and then just changed their mind. I think that changed an awful lot of stuff for him as well. But just looking back at the thumbnails from earlier on in the season, Lee Bowyer, Brendan Rodgers, Carlos Corberan, Darren Moore was favourite at one point. His favourite, yeah. Patrick Vieira was famously linked, Team Talk exclusive, that Patrick Vieira be named as the Leeds United manager in 24 hours, and he wasn't. I'm trying to think with anybody else, but that's it. I mean, to go from there, and then Joe Kinnear, obviously. It's not Joe Kinnear. God, there's our flashback. Sam Allardyce, same era, same type of manager. Sam Allardyce saying that he'd pretty much been offered any job he wanted at the club, which was just... I'm so glad we moved away from that type of stuff and don't have that kind of person in charge of the club anymore. But I think Farke has been great. He's got one big push. I think regardless of what happens on Sunday, I think Daniel Farke is Leeds manager next season. I think it'd be crazy to make that decision. I think even if Leeds do sell players, which it's likely that they'll probably look at selling two of the bigger names. I think you're looking at a Somerville and a Nanto possibly going. I think you'll get probably a better balanced squad coming in. Then I think you'll start to see more championship level players coming in, or players that have experience at this, players that can do a job in this division. I think Josh Sargent link stinks if we stay in the championship. I think that's
actually, if we get to the Premier League, I'll take him anyway. Because I think he really fits the system. I think he really fits the system. Like I reserve as a backup, not as a starter, of course. I'm saying, but
yeah. Sorry, Lucky saying about Raul was linked as well, very strongly linked.
Remember Joe going, Raul.
I wanted him. I was all about Raul. I thought that was great. I wanted Corberan, but Raul, when I saw Raul's name pop up, I went, yes, please. Let's have some of that. But I'm not a Josh Sargent fan. I get that he scores goals. I just not a fan. I just don't think it's a progressive move for Leeds to go to. And again, just knowing the baggage that will come with it, because he's a US international, you're gonna get the US MNT account.
True.
We just don't need that. I have no problem with US fans. I've always said that. No problem with US fans. US MNT accounts, separate issue. But I don't know. But I think, to me, looking at the kind of players, you look at, Marius Wolf been linked in the last couple of days, and you look at Josh Sargent, it kind of says to me that Leeds have two lists of players. They have if we stay in the championship list, and if we get promoted list, and they're working away on both of them just in case. And I think for me, Josh Sargent looks like a championship player, whereas if you look at Wolf, albeit Dortmund let him go because he doesn't do enough Premier League money, Premier League wages, all that kind of stuff. So that's where my head's at with that. There was another player linked, Bove, Eduardo Bove from Roma linked, which was a surprise one, but that's been the kibosh had been put on that today. But that was an exciting player that I thought would have been nice, and you'd know probably a bit more about Bove than I would.
Yeah, I love him honestly. I think he's a very good young player. I think he should have had already a cap for the Italian national team. Unfortunately, I think he played more with Mourinho than De Rossi, and De Rossi is one of his biggest admirers now. But so far they found their chemistry now with Paredes and at Roma, with Paredes and Cristante. So the way they play with four now. They used to play 3-4-2-1, 3-4-1-2. Now they've changed with four at the back. So there's a one midfielder less. So that's why he's not playing anymore. But he's very similar to Frattesi and Barella, the way he plays. That's good. He's really, really progressing, really good off the ball. So I think next season, he may switch to. He may be a good player for a Premier League side. I think there'll be a few Premier League clubs looking at him, honestly, because I think he wants to leave. From what I'm hearing in Italy, I think he wants to play more. Of course, he's from Roma. So he's a local guy. So when you talk about Romans, if a certain person if the people in the chat, if you have visited Rome, our Romans are attached to the city, especially to Roma. There's also Lazio, but of course, it's a special relationship for both sides, but the Romanisti are really attached to their clubs. So, Bove, if we get to the Premier League, I think it will be a good profile to look at, because I think it will be accessible for like 2025, honestly. I don't think that would be a bargain looking in perspective, because I think he's really, really similar to Barella, the way he plays. Barella, I think, is a player fit for the Premier League, absolutely. I really hope it's a concrete link, honestly.
Well, doesn't he? Spalletti's a
fan. Sorry, Joe, I lost you for a bit.
No, you're okay. Spalletti is a fan of his as well. The Italian coach has talked an awful lot about him recently as well as being an emerging talent.
Yeah, absolutely. He's very good. I think we have a good core of young players in Italy. I'm really sorry about Willy, honestly, because I think with Mancini, I think his arrival into the national team was a little bit sped up.
Yeah.
So now I was watching the game with Norwich on the zone in Italy, because the players are shown not on LUTV, so I don't know if you watch LUTV, but there's the Italian commentary on the zone. So the commentator was saying, now Willy Gnonto, of course, one of the key players for the under-21 side now. Of course, he used to be more involved with Mancini. Spalletti has a different opinion about him. So, I think it will be a long road for him to get into the side. And I think if we don't get to the Premier League, it's really likely that he leaves the club, honestly, because of this, honestly. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that as well. I think that's the obvious one that makes sense. The two of them make sense. I've kind of come to terms with it a little bit. I Chris Summer has been outstanding for Leeds. The goals he scored for Leeds have been phenomenal this season. But from an FFP perspective and from a squad strengthening, you sell the two of them in the summer. If you have to, and that's a very much if you have to, I think there's an awful lot you can do with that to, add more balance and possibly a bigger bench to the side as well. So
yeah, absolutely. It's needed. Needed.
There's a couple of Southampton fans floating around in the chat. Some nice. You're not the underdog. I don't know where you guys are getting this stuff from. But maybe focus on selling out your ticket allocation first. Then we'll have a chat about who's the underdog and who's not. Yeah. Moving on, let's talk about the semi-final, Andrea. The two legs against Norwich. I keep combining these both in my head and saying Farke got his tactics spot on for when he combined the two games together. What's your thoughts on it?
Absolutely, I agree with you totally, because I think the first game, the main focus especially after the recent bad run of results, I think we were a little bit off the pace in terms of how we interpreted the game tactically. Especially Farke called the last game of the season with Southampton like a basketball game, because it was like the team going all on one side, then just going back. It was like a basketball game in a certain way tactically. So the first focus, especially defensively, was to find again our our uncertainties, our securities. The thing we did pretty well. So I think the Norwich game, we both teams, because I think it was a very different, similar game plan for both sides, for Wagner and Farke. It was one of the most boring games probably for neutrals, but I think we nullified their attack, especially in the middle, and that's what we wanted. And they did the same with us. We had a good chance at the start. With I think it was Willy or Kamara, I don't remember which one of them two. Right now at the moment, but I think we did that pretty well in terms of reforming defensively, especially finding our feet again in possession. Of course, we will struggle a little bit with verticality, but I really liked at times when Gray playing in a new role for him, a role he played only with the England youth teams. I liked that he constantly moved towards the ball, like to help the midfield, because that's what we missed in the previous games. We missed a player because Water was really struggling, a player helping the midfielders and giving a central route for a pass. And that's what Water did very well, I think, against Norwich. So the first game, I think we were really clinical. Also, not to rush, but control the game with the possession, not rushing, not get everybody forward, but really stay in shape in terms of the tactical shape of the team. On the other hand, on the second leg, I think we surprised them because they started with high pressing. Then we had, of course, Kamara really covering well compared to the previous run of games, not the first leg, of course, but the previous one. He covered the ground really well in terms of positioning, and that's what we missed from him towards the end of the season, because I think his positioning was really, really bad in terms of compared to the start of the season. in towards the end of the season. And I think Rotter also going towards the ball, Fairpoint Gray helping, also going inside, And I really like Pirlo especially because I think that was the main difference. It was his best game, not just looking at the stats, but the way he moved off the ball. That's what I wanted for him. I said that it doesn't fit the system because if he plays in the way they used to play at Swansea, in the way he used to play, of course, in the number 10, he has nothing to do with this system. But what I've seen from him in the second leg, that's the number 9. That's what we want for him. Of course, he's not natural type of game and the way he moves, but that's what we wanted. And the second goal is perfectly, he follows the ball, goes through, cuts in behind, and they find him inside the box. He needs to stay near the box. He doesn't need to drop back. He needs to challenge, to create depth, try to make a run in behind. That's what we want from him. That's what the team needs in terms of the way we play from a number 9,
But 15 minutes in, I made a comment here with my partner. I said, it looks like Pirlo's playing as a number 9, but actually playing as a number 9, not just in that, on the team sheet as the number 9. He's actually he's occupying the centre backs. He's coming short and linking the play. He's getting in the box. He's an option in the box. Every time Leeds get the ball, his goal comes out of the fact that he's central. And you can see how early he is looking for that ball. The fourth goal, I think he wins the ball back in midfield for Leeds. He drops all the way back in, wins the ball, passes it, and then gets going again. So he was excellent for me. And it's the best game I've seen him playing a Leeds shirt. And you said it about his touches. He was far more involved. He was involved in 2 other goals as well as scoring one himself. So of the 4 goals, Pirlo was involved in 3 of them. That's what he needs to do as a number 9. That's the kind of stuff that Bamford does without the finish. We know Joe Pirlo is a better finisher than Pat Bamford. So if we can add the rest of the stuff to his game that Bamford does, that as we can see, but the stats and the numbers that Leeds have, when Bamford's in the side, Leeds play better. If Pirlo can add those bits of holding up the play, occupying centre backs, being a nuisance, if you can add all that to his game, you don't need another striker. Like, that's your number 9 sorted, because the man can finish and he's proven that. So there's positives there, but I was so happy to see him play like that and to play well, and it was a lovely header as well. Great cross from Willie, but a lovely header. But his all round gameplay, I thought, was spot on. It needs to be again. And before we move on, just to educate this guy a little bit, the 1,500 tickets that went back on sale for Southampton were unsold corporate tickets from Southampton's ends. Leeds had already sold their corporate tickets in full, as well as their stand tickets. And there's a very strong rumor going around that a lot of the Southampton corporate tickets have gone to Leeds fans. So you might see some white shirts in there as well, mate. But just to point out to the Southampton fans who have this opinion that they're underdogs, the bookies can say what they want. You've put 5 goals past Leeds this season in 2 games, and you've done the double over Leeds. One of those games being as early as 2.5 weeks ago. So, when we talk about the final, we're going to talk about the final now. For me, the pressure's on Southampton to do it a third time. Where Leeds, we've been beaten by them twice. As far as I'm concerned, going into this, we are underdogs, because head-to-head on 2 separate occasions, they've beaten us home and away. They have pretty much walked through our midfield in both games. Will Smallbone has looked like Diego Maradona, which, as an Irishman, I struggle to get my head around when I see how he plays for Ireland. Will Smallbone is a very good midfielder. He isn't that good, and he has never shown that kind of form for Ireland that he showed.
The problem
for
is
Southampton in those 2 matches. So, but I think
there's no manager. That's the problem with Ireland.
Well, we'll find out soon enough, won't we? We'll find out soon enough in the next when we get another one in. But he's been very good in the middle of the park. They are strong, but both teams are strong. That's what about here. But I think going into this game, it's going to be, for me, I've written down one of the key battles. Andrea, and I'd love your thoughts on this as well. For me, one of the key battles is the middle of the park. I think we have to get that right. That has to be nailed down by Leeds if we're to have any hope of winning this game.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a little bit worried about that, actually, because I think that they usually play with 3, with Downs in the middle, and Smallbone and Aribo. They play with Aribo against West Brom, near him, but we know that they change the positioning and they stay between the opposition defense and central midfielders. So that's where Smallbone goal has come through, and that's the problem, because we have that positioning that we're playing against a team with 3 midfielders basically. When we play against Norwich, they probably playing a similar formation to us, to our formation, because they had McLean, of course, and Nunez, and Sara was dropping back because Nunez and McLean were not progressing with the ball. The difference is that Downs, of course, is like the pivot. but he can also progress with the ball. He did that a few times against West Brom. But Smallbone and Aribo, they move a lot without the ball.
Yeah.
So the problem is that we have Gruev and Kamara, and we know that Kamara really follows Gruev, and it worked really well with Norwich. It really follows the Gruev when he needs to press or really stays near him. And if we lose the ball, they have one more man in midfield. So again, like I said at the start of before the playoffs, because I thought Sarah would have been more involved in midfield. He wasn't. That's the difference. I think now they have a proper 3-man midfield because Norwich had Sarah dropping back. Now they have 3, because they have Downs and the 2 near him. It's really 3 in midfield. So they have one more man. So who looks after this man?
Yeah.
That's the thing. One of the fullbacks staying back and the other going forward. That might be a solution. Gruev covering in the middle like Phillips used to do. That can be another solution. But the other thing, I think that if they play with those 3, we'll see Gruev and Kamara staying more back. They won't have all the space that they had with Norwich because Norwich, of course, they were leaving space for Kamara to go through with the ball. So the key man will be again Rotor in 10 because if those 2 gets pressed, if the game is a high tempo intensity game, we've seen Gruev and Kamara, they may struggle in that kind of games a little bit if they don't have the space to get to think Gruev and to get forward Kamara, of course. So Rotor again becomes the clear man, the key man in midfield. Yeah.
Big man in the house. Even Joe, how you doing, pal? It's the Southampton shape for me is what I think what causes Leeds the problem because it's a 5-3-2 essentially. It's a 5-3-2. The 2 is a problem for Leeds because they haven't played against the 2 all season. So more often than not, we're playing against the deep line 1, if anything. So the centre backs have got a lot of space. They've got a lot of time. One of them is nearly always free. Against Southampton, there's always somebody pretty close to the 2 centre backs with the 2 frontmen that they play as well. And then you've got the width coming from the wingers. So you get Smallbone and Aribo, who you'd imagine in a 3 in the middle with wing backs, they would tuck in nice and tight, but they don't. They stay quite wide. So you get this doubling up on the fullback situation, but a huge amount of space in the middle of the pitch, which drags Kamara and Gruev out to look after them, which then creates that space. So if it's a case that, say, Downs locks on to Gruev and then starts to pull wide, and you've got Smallbone taking Kamara wide, that's when Aribo gets his run through the middle. Or if it's with Aribo, that's where Will Smallbone has got his runs from because he's not being tracked because Leeds are pretty much picking up everyone there. So there'll be a huge reliance on Jorginho Rutter to drop back into the middle of the park and defensively do a job as well. He doesn't have to go tackling people, he doesn't have to be in there winning the ball, but he needs to be occupying Downs or occupying Smallbone or one of them in there so that when Southampton get the ball, that player's not an option anymore and just take him out of the game completely. That's the big one for me. And it's the counter-attacks as well because we've been picked off several times when we've gone forward. You look at the 2 games and I wrote it down. In the 2 matches, the first game, Southampton had 10 shots, 5 on target, Leeds 15 shots, 5 on target. So same shots on target. Possession-wise, Leeds at 53%, they 47. Although if you watch the game, you would see that Southampton luckily dictated the middle of the park. And then from a passing accuracy perspective, both of them were 84, 85%. Second game, it's pretty much identical. 4 shots each on target. 43% possession versus 57% possession to Leeds. But then the last game of the season, it was very much a keep ball at one point. And then 86 to 89% passing accuracy. So they're very close on a lot of things that they do well in games. Leeds like to dominate possession an awful lot more, but it's when we lose that possession, it's how quick we are on the transitions from attack back to defense, which we did very well against Norwich in both legs. Would need to do that again for me, would be a huge piece. And as somebody's already said, for me, if we win that midfield battle and if we can limit counter-attacking opportunities, I think we win the game. But I think we have to do both of those things really, really well because in both of these games so far this year, we haven't done that.
Yeah, that's the difference. That's the main difference. Absolutely. That's it. That's the key of the game, basically. Yeah.
As the Southampton fans saying here, need to flood the midfield. To be honest, Martin was getting ready for a new formation and changing things 3 games before the end of the season. When we didn't have the advantage, you have individual brilliance. Has to turn up on the day. Joe's asking 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1.
I think
for us, Joe, or for them? For us, I think it's 4-2-3-1. For them, it'll be a 5-3-2, probably. But I think he can still go for with a 4-2-3-1. I still think you can have one in the midfield to sit and the rest of them go. And actually, what I thought against Norwich, what seemed to happen was Gruev and Kamara sat a bit deeper than they normally do.
Yeah.
And that gave Georgie a huge amount of space to operate in. to come and get the ball and not be crowded by players and take two midfielders out of it. I think if they do that again, they do that very well. Yeah, for us, yeah. If they do that well, I think we could be fine. But I just think Georgie has to drop into the middle of the park when we haven't got the ball. It's going to be like Paul Heckenbottom now, but with the ball and without the ball approach needs in this. When we haven't got it, they've got to get back in behind the ball and be solid, because they have got the players to pick us off. Che Adams, Armstrong, small one's done it already this time this season. Aribo's a decent player. Downs will get you goals as well. So, and then they've got the advantage of having height as well from set pieces as well. So, like, this isn't an easy game by any stretch of the imagination. Everyone's very excited. I'm very excited about everything right now. And I don't mean to sound defeatist, but the more I'm talking about this, the more I'm like, Jesus, we're going to really have to be on our game, because we have to turn around a deficit here, essentially. Like, they're going to walk into this game having a really good understanding of Leeds. Russell Martin doesn't like Daniel Farke. Russell Martin played for Daniel Farke, and it appears right now that Russell Martin has a very good understanding of how Daniel Farke plays. And that's so far this season, that's what's won him games. But I could be reading too much into this, Andrea. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that we all know that, what happened. Of course, they've been really diplomatic. They say, yeah, we're on good terms, in the past after what happened at Norwich. But basically, Russell Martin had been their captain for years. And Farke, he said, I want to play with different players. So basically, Martin, I think he was loaned in January to Rangers, probably. Was it? Yeah. But another thing, I think in terms of how we play, I think we'll, in certain occasions, will look like more the side that we were at Cabra Road, honestly. But of course, if we manage to get control of the midfield, then I think there will be more space, especially like you said, Rotter would be a key man. But also, if we manage to get control, to get space, we need to see if they will be high pressing us, because we've seen that if they really put the intensity and pressure on us teams, high pressing, we really struggle, because they block completely our midfield duo, and so the only way we get forward is with long balls towards, of course, Piro in this case, or long balls switching the side from the fullback to the opposite winger. That's the other thing, But another thing that I think will play a part, I was looking at this. I think Ampadu played the relegation playoff, so a final last season, and he scored the equalizer, Verona Spezia, in Serie A, but it was one of the worst plays on the pitch. So, of course, he played also in Wales, for Wales, in the final of the playoffs, both for the World Cup and the Euros. 1-1, 1 lost. So they know what they are expecting, and also Rodon played in those games, Dan James played in those games, Conor Roberts plays and also played for Swansea when they lost against Brentford, and there's other few players that have the experience playing internationally in our side, so they know what to expect, honestly. And Firpo played in like the chant says, he won a cup in Spain. So
same for us.
Yeah, exactly. There's players there. Also, Kamara played in the Europa League final. Reached the Europa League final with Rangers, like Aribo did. So I think we have experienced players that know how to handle the pressure. Of course, I think what we lacked a little bit, and Saints have it on their side, because they have Adams, Armstrong, of course, Bednarek. Bednarek played also in a World Cup too. So I think they have more experienced players in center parts of the pitch. We have them, but they are not starters. Like, of course, Cooper contribution, like we've seen also when he saluted Ellen Road, said goodbye to Ellen Road, basically, is monumental like Dallas is, but behind the scenes. On the pitch, I think our best leader so far in terms of mentality is Ampadu right now, but all the other leaders are technical leaders. That's what we lacked a bit, I think, throughout the seasons. If you compare this team to Bielsa one, when we were promoted or lost the semi-final with Derby, we had players who were properly in terms of mentality, like Klick, like Alioski. Alioski, of course, he was like a bit of a joker, but when he was on the pitch, he was not a joker. He was fully focused, Berardi, Pablo Hernandez, those were proper mentality leaders, I think right now probably Ampadu is the one that we have in terms of leading his teammates, but all the others are technical leaders. This is the occasion for them to rise to the occasion, like they did with after in the second leg, because I really like Firpo leading the team in terms of sacrifice. I like also the old version of Rodon getting back, So yeah, I think that this is the big occasion for all those players that played in final before. Some of them have lost finals, so if when you lose a final, and I know that firsthand because when I was at Reggiana, we lost a playoff final to get promoted to the third tier. We were promoted anyway because another team renounced later on. But when you lose a final, and you prepare, it sticks with you. That final, I still think about that final. It was also a derby. Certainly, days, because the defeat in a final it stays with you. So you really want another chance to relive it. And for the players that lost previous finals, either in the playoffs in the EFL, like Roberts, for example, or in the World Cup or in the Europa League, this is their chance. They want to win this final because they know how it feels if they lose. They already felt that in their past careers.
It stays with you until you win one.
Exactly.
Then it dwindles. I've been lucky enough playing a couple of cup finals in my career, and I lost a few when I was younger, and I hated every second of it. I mean, having to stand out on a pitch and applaud another team off the park with a trophy that you've worked all year to pick up and you've lost in the last hour and a half of the season, it does stay with you, and especially you reflect on your own impact on that game as well, and you can get really inside your own head. But I've always been lucky to win a couple of cup finals as well, and I can tell you that when you win them, there is not winning a league is brilliant. Winning a cup final is nothing like it.
Yeah.
But walking out to the atmosphere they walked out to Ellen Road last weekend, that was massive. And we have seen Leeds teams in that moment buckle in the past, and they seem to thrive on it. And to your point, this might not be an experienced, in inverted commas, Leeds side, but there's a lot of players who played in big games at big moments who will be needed in this game. And there's a lot of people asking questions about, who stands up. And for me, there's a lot of pressure on one of the youngest players in the park, and that's Jorginho Rutter. And he's come into, had a great season. Then he has the injury, has the operation, doesn't seem to work out as well as we hope. And he has that little run where it's just not as good as it had been. And then Norwich happens last week. And all of a sudden you're starting to look at the old Jorginho Rutter. How important for you is he in this game? Because for me, he's fundamentally important to everything. There's lots of other players. Gruev and Kamara's midfield pair are important. Rodon and Ampadu are very important. Your number 9 is important. Somerville, all those players. But for me, when Georgie's on it, we tick. And from an attacking perspective, when he's playing well, we're playing very, very well. So how much weight would you put on someone like Rutter's shoulders going into this game?
I'll put a lot of weight, because like you said, it's really important, not just in terms of how he plays, in terms with the ball, turning around, going back, but also tactically, because who follows him? Either a centre back or either they put downs on him, trying to Gnonto, yeah.
Yeah.
But Brinlow says Nonto sometimes, but yeah, I think that they're both fine, I think, either they put downs on him or a centre back follows him. If a centre back follows him, he has the space to stop the ball, turn around, because he really likes to do that, and the space for Spiro to exploit from the gap they've left. If they put downs on him, of course, it's the same, because Down doesn't have the pace that Water has. He can, pick him and bring him wide, in terms of centennial of the pitch. But also too, if he brings him wide, he can pass the ball to a fullback, he can pass the ball to a winger, and then sprint, because Downs doesn't have the pace that Rotter has. So it's really key in terms of link up. Yeah, exactly. Also in speeding up the play, speeding up the play, creating space for teammates to get into, and also, playing with through balls, because I think that the next step, I'm looking at Joshua Ziekte of Bologna, qualified for the Champions League. I think that's what Rotter needs to look at for his next step in his career. A player capable of moving like Rotter does, going back, dribbling, trying to, to dribble, to turn around, get past his man, but also capable of finishing and also finding space to pass, to finish. He's already good in that, because we know that the amount of assists he had this season, but I think that's just 1/3 of what he can achieve in terms of playing in this new role. Next, not forget, this is the first season in his new role, because at often he played more wide. He was brought in Leeds, by Horta to play as a number 9. So yeah, absolutely, this is the game where he can really, start to make the next step in his career, because this is called the most profitable game in football for a reason. and also because it's one of the most watched football games in football. Not just because there will be like almost 40,000 Leeds fans and Saints fans, but also because there will be a huge amount of scouts at the game watching the players too.
Yeah, it'll be huge. It'll be huge. The other one I wanted to ask you about before we wrap up is Nanto or James.
It's a big one, honestly. But yeah, I will stay with really honesty. Not because I'm Italian, but I think he was better in the second leg compared to the first one. I think in the first one his decision making, was a little bit ups and downs. Of course they didn't award him a penalty. But I think in the second leg it was more focused, because I think Willie is very young still. He adapted to the game, to the English game pretty well last season. Let's not forget that when we acquired him, Marsh said, we acquired him. Basically said, that he wasn't ready for the Premier League, and he hinted that he would have gone to the under-23s, at the start when we acquired him. And I think that if he managed to stay really focused and improve his decision making, like he did in the second leg, with that cross, like going inside, going on the outside, reading really well near Gray, especially, with Rotter and Kamara too, in that area, making the running behind, towards the fullback, Nulis, exactly the Greek one. I think he can really be a factor also in this game. Honestly, I think with Dan James, I think I will leave him as a sub, because I think we know that our finals are. Yeah, I think the gaps will improve in the second half, especially based on the result, on the score, because if Saints get forward, try to high press, there will be space in there. And I think James as a sub, I think he could have more impact in this kind of game. Honestly, off the bench at the right time. Yeah.
We're going to wrap up, but before we do so, just to let everyone know, there's a redirect in place for this to go to Joe's show on the Just Joe show. Joe's show on the Just Joe show, which is set up for as soon as we finish now in a sec. He's on with a Southampton fan as well, so if you want to get a different perspective on the game, go check that out straight after this as well. Andrea, really quick last thing before we wrap up, because I want to make sure Joe gets his time as well tonight. Call it. Who wins it?
I think we win it 2-1 in extra time, honestly.
2-1 extra time all the way. Okay.
Yeah, I think I'm sure. Honestly, I think I'm convinced he goes to extra time. I don't know the score. I think we win, but I'm absolutely 100% sure it goes to extra time in my head.
Yeah. My head says extra time. My heart is saying 2-1 Leeds, and I'm gonna go with a Leedsy score and go 2-1 Leeds in normal time. Fingers crossed. Right, gonna go wrap it up. Yeah, Andrea, massive thanks for joining me tonight. Really appreciate you jumping on. Pleasure to talk to you as always. And you can check Andrea out on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it at @Russo_16. You can check him out there if you want to. I'll be back in the morning for some Leeds news, and also tomorrow there will be a video going out with Adam Pope from BBC as well, and his thoughts on the season as well. So that'll be out towards the evening tomorrow. You can check that out as well. Massive thanks as always. I'll see you in the morning for the news, and you can go check out Just Joe's football show now for the opposition view over there. Have a great night. Talk to you later.